Hello everybody, my name is Nick with Superscript Comics and Games, and today we are going to take a look at what's on my shelf. Ta-da! Alright, so here we are. I thought we'd start at the bottom of my shelf and work our way up. I'll go through a lot of my games. Probably won't go through every single one, but we'll go through most of them. So, basically the bottom shelf for the most part is my RPGs. So I've got Savage Worlds and Savage Rifts. If you're not familiar with Savage Worlds, here's my Savage Worlds Deluxe with some little tabs here. This game is great. This is a pretty, here's Olive. It's a pretty low barrier to entry RPG, I think, because it's a low price point for the book. You don't need a ton of books to play or get started, and it's a setting neutral game. So I've run this with, I've done my own fantasy settings with Savage Worlds, and then with the Savage Worlds Rift supplements, which I've got the big whole collection here, you can do Rifts setting, which is a fantastic hodgepodge sci-fi setting with magic and wizards and dragons and mechs and everything you could ever imagine. I also have some of the old Rifts books from the Palladium system, just because I like the books and I love the art, and it's great. But if you want to get into Rifts, I would say go with Savage Worlds Rifts for the Savage Worlds rules with the Rift setting, so it's the best of both worlds. Then I've also got Heroes Unlimited. That's another Palladium game like Rifts. It's a superhero RPG. I have not played this in a long time. And I've got my D&D stuff. I don't have too much D&D stuff anymore. I grew up playing a little bit of 2nd edition, then played a lot of 3 and 3.5, played a tiny bit of 4, and now I've been playing 5th edition, which I like a lot. But I kept some of my Forgotten Realms books, just because I like to go through them. I like any of the kind of setting books, and Forgotten Realms is great. I actually have the this is 4th edition, right? The 4th edition Dark Sun book, just because I think it's cool. And then I've got my 5e stuff, although I think I loaned someone my player's handbook and DM's guide, and Monster Manual too. So if you're watching, you know who you are. I'll take them back. Then I've got Star Trek Adventures. This is a game by Modiphius. This game is great. It's Star Trek. It does a great job of, I don't know, before I played it, I wasn't sure how an RPG would be able to capture Star Trek, but it does. It works really great. It makes you feel like, as a player, you have all the resources that a captain or commander in Starfleet would. So it's a lot of fun. Obviously, if you like Star Trek, you should check it out. If you're interested in this game, please stay tuned to our social media, because we have some stuff in store for you. And then I've got Tales from the Loop. This is a super cool game. Very, I guess I would say, a little more light on the mechanics. It's really all about the setting, which is this really cool sort of alternate history, but I guess the tagline perhaps says it all, role-playing in the 80s that never was. So it's this alternate history 1980s where there are robots and a lot of sci-fi stuff, but it's in the 80s. And you also play as kids. You play as teenagers, which is also very challenging from a role-playing sense, I think, or from a sense of the GM trying to give the players, sorry, I'm trying to like duck a little bit, to make it work, given that the players are playing as teenage characters, and but it's great. It does a great job at that. The art is beautiful, so I would highly recommend check this out. If anyone wants to play this and you live in the Cleveland area, let me know. I've got a campaign ready to go that I haven't played yet. And then I've got my last RPG on my shelf is the Mouse Guard role-playing game. If you like the Mouse Guard comics, which are fantastic, also have fantastic art and wonderful world, I would highly recommend the Mouse Guard RPG. You are mice, you are anthropomorphic mice battling woodland creatures and so on, and going on quests. So yeah, that's a Burning Wheel game as well. And then that's really it for RPGs. So now to some board games. Down here we've got Mysterium, which I love this game. It's sort of like Dixit, if you've played the game Dixit, where you're interpreting images, but in Mysterium, one player is a ghost, the other players are psychics, and they're trying to interpret what the ghost is telling them. The ghost is trying to lead the psychics to the information of a murder. So sort of the who, what, and where of the murder. Also got beautiful art, beautiful components, a very cool sort of cooperative, interpretive game. So I love that game. Then on this shelf, we got some kind of, oh, here's the other cat. Got some, I don't know, primarily Euro games, I guess. Feudum is a really big game. It's got a ton of components. I have only played it once. We played with the, I think, maximum of 6 people. With the expansion, you can play with 6. I think the base game plays up to 5. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm pretty much down for any kind of big Euro game that has nice components and nice art. So I liked it a lot. It has a lot going on, a lot of different paths to victory, a lot of different things you can do on a player's turn. So it's challenging and overwhelming in that way. But I had a lot of fun. I would love to play it some more. Then we've got Fog of Love, and I also have the expansions. This is a 2-player game. The tagline says romantic comedy as a board game, which is really what it is. You are, the 2 players are a couple. You are trying to work together, overcome challenges of your relationship, and so on and so forth. And it's fantastic. The expansions I have not played yet: the Paranormal Romance and Trouble with the In-Laws. So there's that. Then I've got Tricarion, which is a really good worker placement game. This also has an interesting theme. You are magicians trying to craft a magic show. So you are putting together your specific magic tricks, you're gathering components, you're hiring staff, and then you're planning your show, and then you are actually carrying out the magic show. So that's a really good one. Got Roll for the Galaxy, which is a lot of fun. Eschaton is a cool area control / deck builder, which is, I think, an interesting combination that I'm sure there are other games out there that do it, but I'd love to see more of them. It's a really cool combination of things. And then one of my personal favorites, absolutely, is Caverna, the hit from the great Uwe Rosenberg. In this game, you are dwarves, and you are sort of building out your cave, building a home in your cave and different dwellings in a cave, and you're also building up a farm. You're raising crops, livestock, stuff like that. Another great Euro game where players can, everyone has their own farm and own cave, so each player is just kind of doing their own thing. There is some interaction between players, but it's primarily doing your own thing, taking the best opportunity you can on your turn, and then at the end of the game, you're comparing points and seeing who won. As you'll notice as we go through my games, I'm a big fan of those Euro-style games where there isn't a ton of direct conflict, but there's enough competition. You're maybe fighting for the same resources or the same opportunities, but you're not directly beating each other up and making one player have a really bad experience. So let's move on up. All right, so here we are in the middle of my shelf. Let's start over here. We've got a bunch of small games. Honestly, a lot of these, not gonna lie, a lot of these haven't hit the board or the table in a while. But one definite favorite is Hanami Koji. This is a 2-player game where, gosh, I don't even know how to describe this game because it's sort of unlike anything I've ever played. The 2 players are trying to win the favor of these geishas, and you are, I guess it's hand management. You're carefully selecting which card to play and very carefully selecting which action to take, because you have the same, I believe it's 4 different actions to take each round. You take each action once, and that's the end of the round once both players have done that. So it's very carefully selecting each very limited move you have. The reason it's a favorite and the reason it blew me away when I played it is it's so simple but so deeply strategic. When I first played it, I was like, how does this work? This doesn't seem like it should work, but it does. It's fantastic. Everyone should buy it. Hanami Koji. Dixit Jinx is a fun little one, where it's sort of like Dixit, sort of like Jinx. Fun, quick, good. I also like, this is a weird one, but I like it. And then we held hands. I'm a sucker for any game with a unique theme, and a game where you're navigating a troubled relationship is an interesting one to me. So this is it's a good game as well, but the theme, the art are solid. If you want to play a game about a troubled romantic relationship. Then over here, got some lighter fare for the most part, some Haba games. So Rhino Hero is fantastic. This is a dexterity game where you're working together, stacking cards up off the table to build a tower of cards, and there's a little rhino meeple that you have to put up there. This game is awesome. You can play this with people of all ages. It's wonderful. Dancing Eggs is a weird one where there are these rubber eggs that you have to bounce. I would also call this a dexterity game, but it also involves like potentially running around the table and stuff, which isn't for everyone, but it's a goofy one. And then Castle Knights. This is I guess you would also, I would call this a dexterity game. Castle Knights, you are working together with your team of knights, and you are stacking these big, chunky, well, here on you can see exactly the age group that it is made for. It's, I believe, 5 and up. But every time I bring this out, it is a riot, because you're working together using this sort of elastic band mechanism to collectively stack these wooden blocks and build towers for the king. All at the, you have to race the clock while you're doing that. this is wonderful. Haba, anything by Haba, it's probably pretty good. Then, let's see, I've got, I guess this is another dexterity game. I didn't realize how many I had, but Ice Cool. This is one where you are flicking these little penguin pieces that, I don't know how to describe it other than they wobble. So they have sort of a cylindrical bottom, so you flick them and they'll scoot across the board through this sort of maze, but they'll, you know, wobble around as they're doing it, so it's unpredictable. The theme is you are penguins running around a frozen school, collecting fish. So this is also a lot of fun. You can play this with kids as well. I believe it's 6 and up. But this is a solid dexterity game. I've found that dexterity games that require flicking, some people just do not like it because they're bad at that, or they have a time or a hard time doing that accurately or with power or whatever. This is a good one, even if the flicking isn't your favorite thing, because it is unpredictable. There's, you know, it sort of balances out the skill barrier, I guess. And then I've got, let's see, I've got Sylveon, which is a 1 or 2 player, but it's really made for 1 player game where you are, I guess it's all about, it's sort of a deck, no, it's not really a deck builder. Well, it's a deck builder, but it's also card programming, I guess hand management. You are the forest trying to stave off the fire elements that are coming in. And then King Domino, I feel like everyone should have this game. This is a game you can play, you know, younger audience, 8 and up. You can play it with people that, you know, don't play a lot of games or don't have the patience for longer games or big explanations. So it's quick to set up, quick to learn, but there's a lot of strategy to it. You have these domino pieces and you're building out your kingdom and trying to earn points based on connecting different colored tiles to one another. And there's sort of a card or a tile drafting mechanic to it. And I really like anything with drafting. That's a plus in my book. Then, let me set these aside. Then we've got some slightly larger games here. Innis is fantastic. This is a area control game, but, well, I don't know if you, I mean, area control is an element to it, but the way you score points is very different than a lot of other area control games. As someone who prefers Euro games and prefers indirect conflict most of the time, I still love Innis because it's not just about who directly beats up the other person. That doesn't mean you win, even if you just destroy my units or whatever. It also has beautiful art. It has a modular board, really great. Robinson Crusoe, this is I think the first edition. It's not the newest, at least. This game is for 1 to 4 players. It's a cooperative game of survival. There's, I think, 6 different scenarios in the base game. Each one sets up your objective and different, settings for the mission, more or less. So maybe you're on each game you're on an island. So maybe you're there trying to just build a boat to get off, or maybe you're there trying to find treasure or whatever. But anyway, it's a game of survival. There's a lot of luck to it, but there's enough choice in the placement of workers, so it's really worker placement and resource management. I love this game. I love it. Carcassonne. Carcassonne is a classic. You should know about Carcassonne. If you don't, it's okay. No shame. It's tile placement. You're building it's competitive, but the whole group that you're playing with is building this one big city and the area around it. And you gain points based on the completed areas, whether they are cities or farms or roads, that you then place a meeple on. So it's there's an interesting balance there of you are kind of all collectively building this thing, but trying to score for yourself. So this is great. There's a bunch of expansions for it. Gun Kimono. Gun Kimono is awesome. I would also say this is like Innis, an interesting take on area control. You are using tiles and placing tiles down on this board, and you can actually place the tiles on top of one another as the game progresses, so you can cover up tiles. And you score points based on when you place a tile, you look at the connected tiles that are the same color. So again, there's sort of a similar to Carcassonne almost. There is a you're all building this thing together, but trying to figure out how to outscore one another. So that's a great one. Kimono, King of Tokyo. Also a game that everyone I think should play. This is for 8 and up, so you can play this with a younger audience. This has dice, so it's sort of like a Yahtzee dice mechanic where you can roll dice, choose which ones to re-roll, and do that again. So there's sort of dice rolling and the management of those dice. And you are all big monsters fighting for Tokyo, I guess, or to take over Tokyo. I don't know, you're fighting for points. But it's great. There's a lot of risk reward to it because when you are the king of Tokyo, you are more vulnerable. The other monsters can beat you up, but you get points more quickly. So that's a great one. Unearth. Unearth is a really beautiful game. Beautiful art there. It's got these nice big tarot-sized cards. In this game, you're also rolling dice and also sort of managing where those dice go, but you have to be more selective about them. The dice represent your explorers that are delving into these ruins and trying to uncover lost, I don't know, cities or whatever, lost relics. And so you are rolling those dice and having to you have to very carefully decide which die to roll, and then you're very carefully deciding where it goes. Or actually, no, I'm mistaken. You have to select where it goes first, I think. So it's really all about, do I want to spend my 6-sided die on this, or do I want to use, my 8-sided die that I only have one of? But there's also set collection in this as well. So this is a really cool one. Splendor. I'm just hitting, this is just all the classics, really. Splendor is a classic engine builder. It's pretty quick to play, can play 2 to 4 players. You are collecting gems and then using those gems to buy cards that produce more gems for you. So you just build up this engine of creating more gems, and then eventually those gems are creating points for you, and then when you get the most points, you win. Takenoko. You know what? Takenoko, I have not played. I've had this on my shelf. I haven't played it yet. If I'm not mistaken, it's area control. It's got this cute little panda and bamboo, but that's all. So I'm gonna stop talking about it because I don't know that much about it, but I want to play it. Now, let's go on to the top shelf. This is where transition will happen. All right, so here we are, top shelves, I guess, top shelves of my Let's go. Sushi Go. Let's Sushi Go. Sushi Go Party. This is a really great card drafting game where you are, I guess, collecting sushi or building the best meal. But it's got really great art, as you can see, all this fun sushi with faces. And it's a quick card drafting game. You play it over 3 rounds, and it has a lot of cards in the box, but you only, at the start of each game, you sort of choose which of the cards you're going to use in that game session. So there's a lot of replayability there, because one game you might play with a completely different set of cards than another. And it gives people an opportunity to sort of, you can ease players into learning the mechanics of the game, because you can start, your first game you can play with the simpler cards, and then you can progress to the more challenging cards or more involved mechanical cards. The Grizzled. I've got the Grizzled and the expansion. The Grizzled is a cooperative game set in World War I, where players are trying to advance through the game with, I guess, causing as little problems as possible, and you're trying to coordinate your cards, or coordinate the playing of your cards without directly communicating what's in your hand. So there's a lot of, it's a very tense game, and it's very thematic with its World War I setting. It has beautiful art, highly recommended. There's also, I do not have it, but there's also a campaign version of the game. I forget what it's called, but check that out, the Grizzled. And then I've got Word Domination. This game is great. I don't know what else this designer or company has done. I got this at Gen Con a few years back, but this game is awesome. It is a word game where there's tiles that are different letters, and those are out on the board on a grid. You're selecting letters to create words, but you're also playing this area control game with those tiles. So it's like kind of brilliant in how cleverly it connects to its theme of word domination, where you are these sort of Bond villain, evil people trying to take over the world, but you're doing it with words. I've got the Lost Expedition. Oh, this game I love. This is by Osprey Games. This is a cooperative, I would say, resource management and push your luck game, where, sort of similar to the Grizzled, you have your hand of cards, you can't really directly communicate, and you're trying to determine which is the best card to play at that moment. Each player is, as you go around, you're trying to get rid of your hand, and each card is going to either make you gain or lose resources. And it's got a really cool, the theme is you're going to find the El Dorado, and it has beautiful card art, and it does a really good job of the cards tell a story as you play. So it's really fun. It has a sort of pulp adventure comic vibe to it. So it's a lot of fun, even when you lose, to look at the cards that you have played throughout the course of the game and kind of come up with the story of the expedition and the eventual, perhaps, downfall of your group. And Codenames is, it's Codenames. Everyone should have Codenames. I've said that a few times already, but Codenames is, I don't know if I'm recommending a party game to someone. Highly likely Codenames is the one. 2 teams are trying to, there are 2 teams, and one person is the, I think, master spy or spy master, and they're looking at different words on tiles and trying to direct their team to the correct clue without being so direct that the other team knows, you know, without giving it away to the other team. So you're trying to like lead, the spy master is trying to lead their team to the secret agents of their team. So that's a great one. So it's sort of, you know, it's sort of like a word puzzle. It's great. It's great. Block by Block. This is an interesting game. This is Block by Block, the Insurrection game. So in this, this is a cooperative or semi-cooperative, depending on how you want to play. I would say it has elements of area control. There's a modular board that's just, the board is these different city tiles, and you are all different sort of, not factions, but different parts of an insurrection. And so you plan how to, in the first phase of the game, or of each turn or round, you are planning your moves and sort of building up your people, or putting up barricades, or setting up different outposts, I guess, or bases of operation to assist the insurrection. And then in the second phase, the police come, and there's sort of a deck that determines what the police do that round, and they come in and tear everything up, and you have to fight with the police and so on. And yeah, so if you're interested in a game about an uprising, this is this is that theme, and it is also a really great game. Then we've got Root, and I've got both of the expansions. I'm a sucker for expansions if it's a game I like. And so Root, this is a well, what would you say? I don't know if asynchronous is quite the right word for this, but each player is a different faction, and the factions operate very differently and have different win conditions. Well, they don't have different win conditions. You're all trying to get points, but the way you gain points is very different depending on which faction you are. And the actions of your turn is completely different depending on which faction you are. And you're all these woodland, creatures in this sort of fantasy setting. And even though each faction operates very differently and the game is very different depending on which faction you are, the game does a great job of not needing a ton of setup. You get this nice player board that tells you exactly what you can do on your turn. It tells you exactly how to set up for the first turn of the game. So I just love this game. And let's see, let's talk about Beyond Baker Street. This game is cooperative. You are trying to help Sherlock Holmes, figure out a mystery, and you are doing that sort of playing a cooperative game of blackjack, and you hold your hand of cards facing out so that your teammates can see what's in your hand, but you cannot see what's in your hand. So, and you have a very specific and limited way of how you can communicate to one another. So on your turn, you can either play a card from your hand, to this collective blackjack pile, or you can tell one of your teammates something about their hand so that they can try to, add up those clues about their own hand and learn what's in their hand so that they feel like they can safely play a card. So this game is fantastic, very cerebral, and it fits with its theme very wonderfully. And then I've got Coup. Coup, I would say I said Codenames is like probably the party game I would recommend to everyone. Coup would be the other one. I would say Coup is the one if you want social deduction, if you want to be lying and deceiving your friends at the table, this is the game for you. I've got this cool Brazilian art edition. There's a bunch of different editions of this with different art. But in this game, you are nobles, I guess, or royal houses trying to win the loyalty of, well, no, actually, I guess the cards in your hand are people you've influenced, and you use them to carry out different actions. But you're really trying to just eliminate all the other houses. That's the goal. But every action you take is based on an action of a card, but you can lie about what's in your hand. So you just take an action, and the other players at the table can either just say, okay, well, you take the action because we're trusting that you have the card, or we're assuming that you have the card, or they can call your bluff, in which you have to prove it, or they can block your action with one of their cards, which adds another layer of, then you have an opportunity to say, well, do you actually have that card to be able to block my card that I maybe don't have? It's great. It's fantastic. Cool. Then let's go to the top. Only got a few games up here. I've got a bunch of Keyforge. Oh, you can't even see them, but up there I got some Keyforge decks just in this good old deck box. But I've got Secret Hitler. So one more party game while we're talking about it. Secret Hitler is similar to Coup in that you are lying and deceiving one another, but in this one you're on two teams. There's the fascists and the liberals. And the fascists are trying to elect Hitler, which is also one of the players, and the liberals are trying to stop that from happening and to pass a bunch of liberal policies. The fascists are either trying to pass a bunch of fascist policies or get Hitler elected president. So this is also a great one. This one takes longer to play. This might be half an hour, 45 minutes to play. Coup is a social deduction game that you can play probably 3 rounds in that time, if not more. And again, this one is teams, so this one really benefits from larger groups. It's 5 to 10, so I think 6 to 8 is really the sweet spot for it. Whereas Coup, you can have a lot of fun with just 3 or 4 people. And then I've got this old Milton Bradley Broadsides game. I've been meaning to look this up to see if it was ever reprinted, but this is a game I had from my childhood, and I recently got it from my parents' house, and I cracked it open and looked through it and read the rules and was surprised. I have not played it since, but I was surprised looking over the rules that it seems like a lot of fun, because a lot of times the older games don't really hold up, but I want to play that again, bring back my childhood memories. But the last game I'll talk about real quick is Fall of Magic. This comes in this big box because it has this big scroll. I think it's over 8 feet long. This is a cooperative storytelling game. So sort of like a role-playing game, but very, very light on mechanics. Actually just enough mechanics and rules to give you just enough guidance in the game. And it has, so the map you set out on the table and you only reveal about 2 feet of it when you start the game. But as you play the game and your characters go on your adventure, you unfurl the map as you play and explore more lands. So yeah, if a cooperative storytelling thing seems like your kind of game, I would highly recommend it, because when I've played this, it's always been it's sort of a magical experience. It's sort of been the game sets up just enough with the setting to create a tone that when I've played, I feel like I learned something about the people at the table. Like I learn a little bit about who they want to be, or one of their fears or something they regret, like some truth about them through playing this game, which is, in my opinion, a beautiful thing. So that's Follow Magic. And that is my board game shelf. All right, so thank you for joining me as I went through my board game collection. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to take a look at the description below. I'll link to some of the ways that you can get some of these games from or through Superscript. Even though our doors aren't open yet, there's some ways you can get these games that will help us out. And please let me know if you like any of these games, or if you want some more information on any of the ones I briefly went over. And also let us know if you want to see some more features like this. So, thanks for watching.